the microphone to the moderator. If I may introduce Steph DeFrancesco, correct? Group Product Lead at Canterbury. As a dedicated professional, Steph presents with enthusiasm, professionalism, and a background of achievement in all things product management and digital. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steph to the stage. Is she here? Okay, we'll move. Joseph Rizek AM, Managing Director and CEO at Arab Bank. Australia has been. Joseph has been Managing Director since 22 December 2010. Joe, would you please join us? Associate Professor Kathy Tanous. Kathy Tanous is an Associate Professor in Economics and Finance, Associate Dean in the School of Business at Western Sydney University. Please welcome Kathy to the stage. Jo Johnston is an economist, a management consultant at Collaborate. She spent most of her career in banking and finance, in credit and risk, deeply embedded in risk analytics. Jo Johnston. Detective Superintendent Matthew Craft, Commander Cyber Crime Squad, State Crime Command, New South Wales Police Force. Commander Matt, would you please join us? And the person who's going to lead this amazing and powerful panel is none other than Marty Rogers, CEO of Realise Business.
Thanks, Wally. Well, what a great way to look at Small Business Month, because out amongst us is nearly 200 small business owners, and it's been a long month for small business, but it's a great opportunity to come and participate and learn from well-learned people of diverse backgrounds, which is what tonight is all about. When you think about it, from understanding brand and consumer preferences, how to build teams, collaborate together, sustainable businesses and leadership, and also from a cyber point of view. And that's what we're going to hear from tonight. And if there's any questions that you might have from an audience point of view, put your hand up as well, and we'd like to engage you. Tonight is about a bit of a conversation about how do we take each and every one of your small businesses from where it is today into the future, from a prosperity point of view and a protection point of view. But before we get into some questions, we've heard about the titles and stuff from people. Let's find a bit more about our panellists and what they do, the current role that they are in. So, Steph, do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself and the role that you actually play at Canterbury?
All right, can everyone hear me now? Yep. Better late than never, right? Yes, I'm Steph. I'm currently working at Canva. I originally actually started my journey off in finance. Around 2009-10, I got the opportunity to move over to the tech space. So originally I was working with a bunch of startups with some really clever entrepreneurs. Eventually worked my way over into digital agencies, and then I went to the client side, the dark side, and started working with brands like Telstra, Eubank, and now I'm at Canva. I've been at Canva for just coming up to 2 years, and I originally started working in the home and content management space, so primarily responsible for the homepage experience and the projects part of the product, and now I'm working with a product under the Canva umbrella called Pixabay. I've been doing that for about the past 5 or 6 months, so very excited to be here today.
Lovely. And who uses Canva? Who doesn't use Canva? Well, you will at the end of tonight, I'm sure, because if you're looking for business efficiencies, that is what is going to come to you. So let's have a look at Joseph. So Joseph, Money Man, do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself and how you dole out the cash to everybody?
I've actually brought some samples with me. A lot of people say you're a banker and your surname is Risk. And I said yes. And I've been copying that for the last 49 years. I've been a banker for 49 years. I spent 31 years with the National, one of the executives in New South Wales. And about 18 years ago, I moved across to the Arab Bank. And it's been a fabulous journey in banking, and the variety of clients, the variety of friends, the varieties of associations that I've linked in with over the years is quite rewarding. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if I didn't enjoy it, and I hope I can enjoy it for many more years, one way or the other. But the reality is that it's given me a very, very good understanding in terms of how the economy works, in terms of how business, in terms of change. And, you know, the reality is what we're facing in this world is a very rapid period of change. Right? And good people that know how to manage change are the ones that will be successful, right, if they pick up on the opportunities of change. And that's what I focus on. You know, as someone that's been in the business for so many years, I focus on managing change and picking the best things that change can bring. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. I thought change went out for a while. We had notes inside, crypto stuff now, but managing change was the joke. Hey, Jeff, I got my joke in. There you go, sensational. Kathy's interesting from the point of view of ULS. So, Kathy, tell us a bit more about what you're doing at ULS.
Oh, thank you so much. Actually, I'll start off. I actually wasn't in academia all my life, so I worked in industry for the Commonwealth Bank before jumping into asset consulting, before then doing international consulting for the United Nations Fund for Women, the World Bank, and so on, in countries like Laos, Yemen, Solomon Islands, and so on. So jumped into academia when this is a really, you know, I think some can identify with this. Pregnant with twins, and I was supposed to go into Yemen because I was managing a project which is a household expenditure survey, and we had a team of people running around the countryside collecting data on how people spend their money. And the idea is I give birth to my twins, throw them on my back, and off into country I go. If anybody knows Yemen, it's not known for its health system, so with preemie twins, didn't quite, you know, decided I need a new path, so did a PhD. You know, that's what you do when you've got little ones. And have been in academia ever since. But at the moment, so in terms of academia, I do a combination of things. So besides teaching at the undergraduate level, and I teach an economics finance engagement unit, whereby I get my students to work on a live project which is commissioned by industry. So the project that we did last semester was looking at the building industry and some of the changes and the impact of regulations in the building commissioner and what that has meant and the tightening of the regulations around it. Beyond just that engagement unit, I have a very large pool of higher degree research students, PhDs, a doctor by research, and I'm a data scientist, so I tend to be the person who links different data sets, administrative data sets, to try to unpack and work out what's the cost or economics, or what's the impact of different types of incidents. So things like fire has been an area of research, and we've recently just did one which is looking at first responders, so police, ambulance, SES, environmental protection agencies, and so on, but we costed it out at a micro level, which means per incident, I've created a dashboard, I'm creating a dashboard where we can tell you an incident occurs, who's going to be affected, what it's going to cost on average, and what's the implications. So, and I guess that's led me into infectious disease. I know, it's like a natural link. So I'm part of a center which is at Westmead, it's based in Westmead Hospital itself, where what we're looking at is genomic sequencing and measuring genomics, well, looking at aspects like salmonella disease, but working out the economic cost of trying to map it out, and mapping it out at different levels. So I'm working with microbiologists and so on. And because I'm not busy enough, I'm also in a co-lead with the Urban Transformation Research Center, and we're looking at things like, you know, small issues like, I don't know, global warming, areas like Penrith, which is one of the hottest places in the world, and what's the implications when it comes to building, the type of material used, designing of tree, where to place certain types of species of trees, etc., etc. So that's the other hat. But I also, at the moment, have the hat of the Associate Dean of Engagement. So I spend a lot of time trying to place and support our students, undergrad and postgrad, to connect with industry. So either while they're studying or post their studies.
Yeah, wow, very busy. Yeah. I think she mentioned about Penrith being the hottest place wasn't about the hottest team, I'm sure. For, that's where the Bulldogs are going to be that hottest team from next year. Is that how that works? Joe from Canterbury, I was interesting, pulling the business apart. Let's find out a bit more about what it is that you do, Joe.
Well, I'm probably the least interesting person, but I also come from finance. I'm a local girl. I went to Bankstown Girls. I was the first in my family to finish high school, first to graduate with a university degree. As soon as I graduated, I did what all good people from Bankstown do. I went to London. I worked in private banking in London when someone sort of taps me on the shoulder and says, I've got this job over in Dublin for a credit and risk specialist with an economics degree. And I went, oh my God, that's me. So, I always thought, oh, wow, if I could earn $100,000, I'd be like a millionaire. So at 24, I changed my mind about that. But when I went to Dublin, I found myself working in hedge funds, fund of hedge funds, and working with some of the largest mergers and acquisitions on the planet. The largest transaction that I've worked on was $9 billion. So, but in 2008, everything sort of changed for me. My mum comes over and says, I have cancer, so I quit my job and moved home. So what does a banker do who works 16 hours and flies all around the world? You start your own business, so you don't have to tell people when you're going to be in tomorrow, and you can have the flexibility because someone else doesn't have to cover your work. So, I was just a contractor for a little while, and then I started my own business with my business partner, Leah. So we work where I grew up. I went to school there, and I'm on Stanley Street opposite the sports club, so I didn't move too far. And we thought, with the local experience, people and families that know us, working with small businesses, they're people we understand, bringing everything we've learned from all the other big shops that we've worked in, the training, the millions of dollars of training that went into us. And now we're just, common folk working in Bankstown, supporting charities and local businesses.
Well done. Welcome back. Welcome home, sometimes you'd like to say. Now, the next gentleman, you've heard of cyber security. Well, actually, what we want to do, we're going to ask Matt, but we want him to be redundant as a job. We're talking about him because he's on the other side, cyber crime. So, Matt, do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do in terms of the cyber crime aspect?
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to come along tonight. Adam Johnson gave me a call several months ago now and said, hey, I've got this opportunity for you, and would you like to come? And I think it's a great opportunity as the commander of the Cybercrime Squad to come and connect with business, because business is an important part of our economy, but also too there's certain individuals in the community that like to target small business. But for those of you who don't know, the New South Wales Police, we've invested quite heavily in a Cybercrime Squad. So we've had a dedicated standalone cybercrime squad, which I have 70 staff since 2018. So we are the largest cybercrime squad in Australia. Now, I have a team of dedicated professionals. So they're all, I have civilians, so unsworn staff who bring that technical capability to the squad, but you also have a group of detectives, men and women, most of whom have technical qualifications in IT in some description. They are all very good at detail, and they love the challenge that cybercrime presents to them as a group. The New South Wales Police Cybercrime Squad services the entire state. Or every PAC and PD within New South Wales Police, if they have an issue with cyber, if it's a technical investigation, if it involves cryptocurrency, commanders will contact myself and then we will respond. Probably in New South Wales last year we saw an average increase of 24% in terms of what was being reported to the New South Wales Police through Report Cyber. However, what we do certainly appreciate is not every matter is reported to the police. So we're thinking approximately about 10% of what goes on in the community is actually reported to law enforcement, which is important. But nights like this, prevention, disruption opportunities for me to be able to tell you what the trends are, how you can protect yourself. It's an important part of the engagement. I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to perhaps telling you a few stories and making you a little bit more cyber aware.
Great, thanks very much, Matt. Well, when you look at it from the point of view, we'll get back to some cyber stuff in but I think the stat is that if a small business is under attack from a cyber point of view, 60% of them don't survive after 6 months. So it's a very interesting thing. So it's interesting from a panel point of view. We sort of got them lined up in a. Wally did it very well. It says we've got the product end, so developing it all. We've got the protection end at the end there. So that's how sort of business sort of works. So it's good. The whole idea is let's get more sales, let's get more profit, but let's make sure it doesn't get taken from us from that perspective. So let's get into some learnings and some discussion. So, Steph, I'm going to sort of come back to you in terms of the Canva story is a wonderful story, a wonderful Australian story. And there's a lot of growth that's happened in Canberra and continue to be. You notice that across the room here, it's pretty much a must-have in any business. And those that aren't using it, obviously we'd encourage you to go and have a look at it from a point of view of a great Australian story. But the whole idea around design and products, and this is where you are, how do you look at it from small businesses? Here we are, we've got consumers, we've got customers. How do you about bringing your product design element and head to that for consumer preferences to help us develop the next type of stuff that's going to be relevant to consumers from a Canva perspective?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is actually using your product yourself. I've worked with clients and businesses before where I've asked them questions about their product and they can't answer them, and that's always extremely fascinating to me. And at Canva, we're very obsessive about our customer, ensuring that our products are fit for purpose. We are very lucky. We do have, I think we just hit over 150 million customers. So I got a few people I could talk to find out what they might like for us to build next. But yeah, I think in terms of how we develop product and where we look to in the future, it's a massive combination. But the heart of that is always our customers. We're obsessive about them. We talk to them a lot. We use data and combine that with the things that they're telling us. And so yeah, a lot of the stuff that we do is absolutely driven out of that, out of the customer and what they need. And we, as I said, get a lot of feedback around that. So, yeah.
And do you personally look after 150 million customers in terms of where that's... If you're on the homepage, is that correct? Your homepage as well?
I was, yeah. So I worked on the homepage for 18 months. I moved off about 5 months ago, which is really interesting because when you, for lack of a better term, upset 1% of your customers and you have 1 million angry people, it's a time where those people have a voice. And so if you do upset them or you do make them angry, you will hear about it. And I think the way that you get around that is experimentation. So before we release anything to customers, we go through quite a rigorous process of ensuring that we are releasing the perfect thing for our market. And so that starts with, obviously, not just releasing things because we think it's a good idea, but experimentation, doing our research, talking to customers before it's in our product, releasing to small numbers of customers, getting feedback, having an ambassador group as well, so customers that you know and trust that are really passionate about the product, who want to give you feedback, trialling it out with them. There's a whole number of different mechanisms that we go through before anything would hit the mass market.
Yeah, nice. And I guess to show you consume the product yourself, you want to use it and get that feedback from that point of view, from a design point of view, and obviously that's where that sits from a Canva point of view. Joseph, I'm interested, from a bank's perspective, I guess you use the product, money, I guess, and managing change, so you use the money from that perspective. In terms of the whole idea, if you look at the Arab Bank's acronym ABLE, they're reliable, responsible, and capable is where it looks at from a point of view of the bank. And when it comes to consumers for yourself, how does that sit in terms of the product development side of things?
I think when it comes to product, this is where the banking industry's fallen down time and time again. Right? You look back and look at the number of inquiries, the number of royal commissions that have been conducted, right? And they've all been around the lack of delivery of promises that certain products have been aligned in the marketplace. The reality is banking can be quite complex, but it actually can be quite confusing, especially if you're looking at some products. There's really deposits and borrowing, right? So if you keep the product simple, right, and make sure that your technology is correct, then you're successful. And I've seen it time and time again where people really attack the banks because of the product. So very much correct that you've got to get your product right when you release it to the market. But also when you create complexity around products and your people don't know how to manage it. And the more products you've got, the more complexity you've got. You've got to train your people, you've got to keep them up to speed. So my view, and my team, I say to them, keep it simple. Package the product to the client's needs. This is where banking has gone wrong, in the sense that they don't touch their clients face to face. They don't see their clients to any great degree anymore. And even when they open accounts online, they have no contact with them in terms of direct contact. That is somebody ringing them up and saying, look, I'm your banker, give me a call if you need anything. People look at the delivery. They look at the sustainability of what they're after, right? And this is where banking goes wrong. This is where a lot of businesses go wrong. They think they've got to create this massive complexity of products and services when in reality it should be kept simple.
Yeah, good point. And I think that whole idea about to use the product yourself, keeping it simple and don't, as Steph was saying, just release it. I remember, I think Richard Branson once was having a story, said he had 300 products and then I think Google had one and he said, I'll swap. From that point of view, keeping it simple. And there's some interesting things that I know from the time I'd have to explore the whole consumer preference stuff a lot more, but some good learnings there. So don't just release stuff without actually testing it from a marketplace perspective. And what's really important though in this climate is around, Joseph mentioned team and staff and training, and that's one of the things that I don't know how it sits out there for everyone, whether staff and team are an interesting, keeping them and finding them is also a hard thing as well. You know, Kathy, from your perspective, the challenges that small businesses face in attracting and retaining staff, and what can small and medium-sized businesses do to actually ensure that we've got the people? So we develop the product, what if we don't have the team to be able to deliver the product?
Thank you. And I don't have to tell anybody here that we do have a skill shortage at the moment. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates, not just in Australia, but also in terms of the Canterbury local government area. It's at 5.6%. It's the lowest it's ever been. So again, that's not news to you. If you are somebody who has tried to recruit or tried to retain, because it has an impact on both sides, it is very much in what they call an employees market at the moment. So the question that I get pretty much on a daily basis, where I have businesses now in my role saying, can you please send me students? Send me, we are looking for staff, either at first year, second year, postgrad students. So how could we? What they're looking at is they're looking at internships. So there's a couple of ways. This is one advice that I give for SMEs, because we don't tend to see SMEs really taking advantage of connecting with educational institutions like ours. And if we look at Western Sydney Uni, as Wally mentioned, we have 22 stories that just been built right in the heart of Bankstown. So my connections to date has been in Parramatta, because that's where our school sits. And what we have is that the big businesses have been reaching out to people like myself and my colleagues to say, we are looking for those potential employees, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're getting the right people. So we want to reduce that, what is known as the transactional cost of actually onboarding or bringing somebody on board. So how could we take on interns, paid and unpaid? We've got both options, which are second year and third year, which is part of their academic qualifications, that they have to do what is known as a placement or a period of time. Now, we're familiar with that model of placements in nursing and education and teaching, where we place our students. We're less familiar with it from a school of business perspective, and this is an area that's very much a focus for us as a university, and that is to connect our students and make sure that they have what is known as get their hands dirty. And because, in terms of our university, it's very much like our student base, our local students, in the sense that they typically tend to be like Joe, which is their first generation, first in the family to go on to university. many of them really struggle to get any type of work experience in the area of their studies. So if they're doing accounting, if they're doing property, if they're doing marketing, sports management, and so on, they can find jobs working in retail or in the gig economy, but they really struggle to get that, what is known as that experience in their profession. So again, what I would say to small and medium-sized businesses is reach out to us. We are desperately also trying to make sure that our students get that experience so that once they graduate, they can continue on and move on to in terms of their profession. So, and I guess the advantage for you is for undergrad, it's between 80 to 120 hours unpaid. They have academic supervisions like people like myself, where we oversee their work, we oversee what they are doing. They have to do some academic exercises, but at the same time they become important, not just a resource for you to use, but also to see. It's a testing time for you to see and engage with them and connect with them. And what we find is a lot of the students that do those internships, they actually continue to work within those agencies or those organizations. So I was supervising a data scientist student, brilliant student, at an SME in Strathfield. He had to do a final presentation, and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, can I call you after a half hour because I've got a meeting with the CEO." He calls me back, he goes, "I start working on Monday in paid employment." So he knows the organization, they know his capability, they've had that dry run, and the almost like an onboarding period. And he's been there now for 4 years very successfully. So that would be one way to try to recruit. It would be to look at, as I say, open up the blinkers, try to connect with educational institutions like ours. Because as well, one of the things we also find is while they're studying, it's much easier for them to connect and work locally. So my students want to work in Parramatta because it means, at 2 o'clock they can come and do their lecture for a couple of hours and then go back to work. So it's much easier for them to get a placement if they're in Canterbury, Bankstown, to work in Canterbury, Bankstown, because it means that they could be back in, doing their educational studies quite quickly. So that's one avenue that I would really encourage you. The other thing is, very quickly, is that increasingly as well, the university is saying we want our academics, people like myself, to go out and get that industry experience as well. So you can have people, again, with myself or my colleagues, who will spend some time, and these are funded by the university, and part of it is we want them to get their hands dirty again, excuse that term, but to get those real life experiences as well, because I worked in banking, I worked in international consulting, but mine is quite dated. And as a result, my stories are becoming dated as well. So again, the university is saying, go out there, work with an industry, we will fund you for this amount of time. So the university will pay for the salary, they'll cover all the insurance, so it's like a no cost, a no-brainer, as I say. But that's another way to sort of connect or try to, build up a little bit of your resources.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff. Who here uses internships? Anyone? So it's a great opportunity to get access to relevant expertise, get updated stories as well from that point of view, and use that new theories that are coming into business. So I think they're great ways to look at doing that. So some product development, we're building some teams, and we've also got to build businesses. Joe, I think, on here is a small business. Collaborate is a small business, and from the point of view of collaborate, but I think collaboration is a key thing in businesses. We can't use ourselves as a silo. Joe, how do we go about making sure we remain agile and flexible, but also from a collaboration perspective in businesses to make sure that we are sustainable?
So for me, I learned to cheat really early on in life. So for me, I learned to cheat really early in life, to find who was really good at things and put teams together. And it always made me seem a little smarter than I was, but I was just really good at organising people. I think I got that from sports because I'm a New Zealander and we lost the World Cup. But Matilda's won. So when, collaborate is actually, when you deconstruct it, it was essentially what we thought we needed to do to succeed as a management consulting firm. There's not a lot of management consulting firms in and around Western Sydney. You might have chartered accountants, tax agents, BAS agents, and other professional services. But we wanted to not only have the management consulting services, but we wanted to bring all the skills in-house so that we could help our customers complete their projects. And a little bit of a control freak, so it meant that I could oversee all of it. So we have in-house researchers, we've got in-house math, we've got in-house graphic design, in-house web design, integrations. When things get complex, then we need to partner. So collaboration and collaborate, clearly that's a core value. And that is, I'm very fortunate enough to hire people a lot smarter than myself, so I've kept that in place. And they do really, really great work, but sometimes, they might lack on something else, like interpersonal skills, social skills. So they work really well with us, because they can be and do what their gift is, and work within a team that really appreciates them and their gift. And then that means someone else who might be more extroverted, they get to benefit and be rewarded for their gifts. And as a team, it's a successful team. And we've had quite a lot of success for our clients. And that's been probably the reason we're marketing. We can be a marketing company that doesn't market. So, talent acquisition is actually the hardest thing for us. Not customers.
You look at finding the right people. And I think in terms of small businesses here, the interesting thing is you've come to a networking event tonight. Are you working how to collaborate with people? Jeremy Carter sitting over there was talking about networking, and I haven't seen Jeremy for a couple of years, but mentioned the whole thing is find 2 business cards tonight. Find 2 relationships you can start. You never know what collaboration can come sort of from that. But it's up to us to want to create those relationships and develop them for each of our businesses. But I'm going to before I talk about the crime, I'm interested from the point of view of the 70 staff that you have. Who are they, and do they come easily and want to stay? Is it even though it's a challenging time, is it an exciting thing? Or who are the types of staff that attracted to your part of the world?
Sure. Look, my squad, I'd say they're on the younger side of the police. They're probably less than 15 in service, but they all are designated detectives. But once again, collaboration, that's a term that we talk about, but it's a really important aspect of my business. For a long time, cybercrime, each of the jurisdictions, we were trying to do it alone. It was in a silo. So New South Wales police information didn't talk to Queensland, Victoria. It was problematic. Collaboration now not only occurs at a national level, it occurs at an international level, but also too with business. So, our relationships from a cybercrime perspective with the big banks has never been closer. And the reason for that is that we recognise that working together, that collaboration is the only way we're going to prevent and disrupt cybercrime and reduce harm and victimisation. And I truly believe that. And we've taken a step now in Australia where, it's based in Sydney. We have the Joint Cyber Policing Centre where you have every policing jurisdiction represented there. You have the big banks, you have the telcos, and we all work together to combat cybercrime. So that collaboration becomes very, very important. And further to that, we talk about universities. The universities are key collaborators with the New South Wales Police Cybercrime Squad. We have students come in and work on projects for us. So we present them with real-world problems. This is something I'm having, a problem I have. And a few years ago, it was about business email compromises, particularly targeting businesses. So they were able to do some research, some academic paper, which helped inform decision-making for the Cybercrime Squad and for me as the commander moving forward. So, you just can't do it alone. That's probably my message at the moment, is that you do, from a cybercrime perspective, reach out and join hands.
That's important. Together we'll all come together to protect ourselves. So from your perspective, I'm actually interested to find out what are the current trends. We're small businesses here. If we get attacked, we're out of business in 6 months. So what are the trends you're seeing in cybercrime that we need to be aware of? And more importantly, why should we as businesses appreciate the risk of cybercrime?
Sure. Look, great question, thanks. I think for business, what I'm about to say is tailored towards business. And it's important that business does give cybersecurity the respect that it deserves. Now, I don't normally talk about cybersecurity because I do cybercrime, different disciplines. But I guess from what we're seeing with the stats with business, business email compromise is your number one issue that's going to cause a financial loss. Cyber criminals target particular organisations for various reasons. Some of them, they will target you for the information you hold, for the personal identification information, because they realise that the names, dates of births, email addresses that you hold as businesses all have value, and they absolutely do. Where you have other cyber criminals that are out there to make a buck, there's a financial element to it. And that's where really the business email compromises come in. Now, business email compromises are relatively easy to prevent. If you train your staff, inform your staff about what a business email compromise is, and you have that discussion. Because let me tell you, 24% of everything that was reported last year to the New South Wales Police related to business email compromises. So as a business group, that's number one that I'd ask you to go away and talk to your staff about. Second is ransomware. Now, you're probably thinking, once again, well, why would I be a target for ransomware? If you have staff, if you have computers, if you receive emails, you're likely to be a target. Once again, it's about making a financial dollar. And sometimes it can be your staff that are the weak links. If they just are clicking on things, just like a drunken sailor, that's a problem. If they're shoving USBs from any sources into your system, that is an issue. This obsession with clicking on attachments, and having your IT systems done by a friend of a friend of a friend on a part-time basis, if you have a business, really isn't good enough. You need to have a plan. And more importantly, when it comes to ransomware, you need to have thought about ransomware and what you're going to do before it happens. Because there is a playbook. You want to you should have rehearsed that playbook prior to it happening, because unfortunately the stats tell us that when it does happen to a business, it is devastating. Now you all know that the New South Wales Police has a cybercrime squad, and we're available 24/7. We will certainly come and help you, and we can draw on the relationships we have with the AFP and the Australian Signals Directorate. So you're in good hands. But prevention is the key here. So if there's two things I could ask you to take away, it's just your business email compromise and your ransomware. You really need to consider both of those issues right now and have a plan to deal with both.
And who are our IT guys in the room? Are there any IT guys? Yeah, okay, John. So he's not a friend of a friend of a friend. He's just a friend, right? So we can help you with all of that stuff. So not too far down the track. Yeah, one removed. First,
it's about professionals. You need to have somebody who knows what they're doing.
No, that's right. I'm actually going to come back to Steph, because an interesting question I was having a chat earlier on around this product design and cyber security, and that whole idea of, you're going to just talk a bit about how much does actually, from a Canberra's perspective, does the issues of consideration of cyber security come into your product development?
Yeah, it's we do a delicate dance, don't we, between user experience and keeping things secure. Your favourite people, I'm sure. But yes, obviously, the more secure something is, the harder it is to get into from both the user's perspective and the hacker's perspective. And I actually did a little stint in identity at one point for Telstra. And it is really challenging because it's difficult to make experiences that are beautiful and seamless when most people don't know their passwords. And if they do know their passwords, they're the same for every product. And everybody loves SSO until someone has hacked into one of your platforms and is now SSOing into every single platform that you're logged into. And so I think there's two parts to this. One is, just to kind of echo what you're saying, is to take a little bit of ownership and have multi-factor authentication attached to your personal accounts as much as possible. I actually have been hacked at one point in time, and it was a very awful experience. I learned the hard way. But yeah, in terms of Canva, obviously we have departments that are dedicated to doing this from a holistic perspective and stopping things happening en masse. But yeah, I think just ensuring that we also look at ways of ensuring that we are staying ahead of trends and what those criminals are doing as well, and that's all baked into the product as we go. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the whole area of convenience and security and that balance and that dance. We have to run, I don't know if you've heard of the Essential 8 framework with Right Fit for Risk stuff, and I was out one day and I had to try and get a presentation, put the USB in, and it wasn't allowed. But that's not a bad thing, because it means that you're protecting yourself from that point of view. Joseph, I'm going to stay on this theme around cyber. I think it's an important thing, and sometimes people tend to avoid it in terms of until it happens to them, think, single sign-on, all of a sudden I'm losing all of my things. Joseph, from a bank's perspective, what happens when someone gives you a call and says, I'm subject to fraud?
I think, the reality is a lot of people who get caught with scams and so forth are probably reluctant to sort of elevate that quickly, right? And that's where the problems lie. They don't come to the bank as quickly as they should and say, listen, I think I've got a problem here. Sometimes they find out that they've got a problem, and then they sit on it for a number of days, and then they make the call, and it's too late, right? There's a lot of collaboration between the banks when it comes to scams, in the sense that if we feel that one of our clients, or we get the information that a client's been tapped and they've sent money, the quicker we get notified, the quicker we can notify the other bank, and the chances are usually pretty good that the money is still sitting there. But if it's 2 or 3 days later, it's gone, right? And there's no way of retrieving it in most cases, right? It's just the process in that. So people are reluctant sometimes, and there's a lot of scams that occur. People don't even complain, or don't even take it to the institutions and say, look, this is what's happened, right? But those that do, the early ones we can help. Those that are late, they've lost their money. And it's just a matter of awareness. I mean, the banks do send out notifications. There's a whole lot of messaging that goes online, it goes on in the bank statements, it goes on every touch point. So, be careful, be aware, right? We share a lot of information between the banks that says, look, this is what's happened recently. Just make sure that your clients are aware this is going on at the moment. Right? So there is, as Matt said, there's a lot more collaboration, and that's really what's needed, right? You're never going to eliminate these attempts or these scams totally, but you've just got to, move the numbers down as quickly as possible.
Just as evidence of that, just to add something further, is that where victims do report early, in the last 12 months, our recovery rate in cooperation with the banks, so it's not just the police, it's a partnership, has increased exponentially. So we're millions and millions of dollars returned to the victims. Yes, we don't get out on a stick, we don't get the cyber criminal, but we get the money back because they reported early. So that's key. If I can just echo that message, it's very, very important you report early.
Yeah, Matt and Joe, I was at a talk the other day, and I heard that potentially once you hit send to another bank, it could be as little as 7 minutes for it to go from one account to the other.
Yeah, it's very quick now. It is very, very quick. And that's part of that customer experience that we're just talking about. Customers want their money straight away, but that comes with risk, and people need to understand that. And particularly when it leaves Australia, I think I need to be honest with you, it's very, very difficult once it leaves Australian shores. If it's within Australia, it's tremendous success. Once it leaves Australia, whether it's in fiat or cryptocurrency, it's very difficult for us.
So apart from email and ransomware stuff, are there any other things that businesses should take away tonight?
I think the protection of your data. You need to give due consideration to the personal identification information that you hold, that you collect. Not only do you store it to make sure it's encrypted, who has access to it? Do all your employees need to have access to all of your data? But more importantly, at some point, you need to consider, do I need to be holding all this data? Do I need to be collecting everybody's dates of birth? Because I can tell you now that if you are breached and there's protocols that you need to report, it is going to be a very difficult process. But if your data is fully encrypted, or you keep limited amounts of data, it's going to be better for you. But if you can, the other thing, if you can take away tonight, is that cyber criminals are definitely after your data. And depending on the type of cyber criminal, they don't need a lot of technology. So if you look at some of the major data breaches that we've had recently, it hasn't been committed by a significantly tech-savvy individual. You can buy these programs online relatively cheaply, and they're able to be executed and find backdoors. So, the data you hold, it's important to your business. You need to cherish it and you need to secure it.
Great. Anyone from the floor got any questions? Raise your hand while you walk around with a microphone. If there's any questions that people have. I'm going to just come back to Steph for a quick second. We talk about recruitment and talent. I'm sure Canva, with 150 million customers, has more than just you doing the whole thing in terms of where it sits. But in terms of yourself as well and the challenges of the ever-changing talent landscape, how do you manage that from your perspective, from a Canva point of view? If you've got any questions, raise your hands as well.
Yeah, I think Canva honestly has one of the most impressive hiring processes that I've ever seen. And to keep honing on the customer, the person that you're hiring at that time is almost the recipient of the customer within that journey. And they really take care of you from the moment you submit an application. Your hand is held through that entire process. I mean, the day that I started, I had an onboarding pack and I had challenges that I had to complete. The whole thing was treated like a conversion funnel for hiring people. And they use their products as well during that process too. So it was really, really impressive to see that. In terms of what I specifically look for, I think there's so much you could teach people, but attitude is something that's really hard to teach. When I've had opportunities with people, trying to help them get through those sort of personal hurdles and attitudes and stuff like that is way more challenging than teaching someone a new skill if they've really got an attitude to learn, an attitude to work as a team, collaborate. And so, I think those sorts of things are almost more important sometimes than some of those soft skills are sometimes more important than those hard skills.
Yeah, nice. You can the attitude. A question?
Yes, I have a question for cybersecurity. So you've spoken about how we need to adopt preventative measures. Can you possibly list some of those measures that some of the small businesses can implement to avoid being breached?
Sure. So I think we've spoken before. It's been the Essential 8 for some of the people in the room. You'll know what I'm talking about. But if you can just remember Essential 8, throw it into Google. It'll be a very important part of your journey as a business. If that's a way that you can measure your cyber hygiene in terms of what you're doing as a business. Two-factor authentication is important when your staff are entering your systems. You need to think about if you're allowing staff to bring their own devices, that adds a layer of complexity that also can add an expense for businesses. It's about making sure that your staff are trained about cyber hygiene. So when we talk about clicking on links, introducing USBs, sending emails, does everybody in your business need admin privileges? Well, I'd suggest not. That should be restricted. There's little things like that as a business, but there is lots and lots of documentation on the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. Have a very comprehensive library of information for small business about what it is that you should be doing. So if you have some time when you're eating your sandwich over lunch, get onto the Australian Cybersecurity Centre website. They talk about the Essential 8, they talk about business email compromises, they talk about ransomware, and they have some really good practical information there for a range of cybercrime topics.
Question?
Joe, may I, if as a banker you still talk to your customers, may I offer my compliments and my congratulations, because you would be one of the very few, if not the only one.
Well, John, I can probably talk for an hour and a half on that, but I won't do that. The reality is, just look at your own personal experiences and think about the time you've run a bank, an insurance company, a government department, and it's taken you hours to get through. And then when you do get through, you're talking to someone who you've never had dealings with before, and then the phone goes dead, you ring back, and you've got to go through the same experience again. And then when you do get someone, it's someone different to the last person you spoke to. People don't like that, right? People just don't like that. They want that little bit of that little bit of contact. So by giving someone a name, and you've got stability in your workforce, giving them 2 names, and making sure, small business, make sure your hierarchy, right, of responsibility is flat. Makes a big difference when a client rings you up and says, I can't get through to such and such a person. Try the next level, then the next level, then the next level, and they're lost. But when the hierarchy, when the organisational structure of your organisation is laid correctly, the clients know that they can get to the top person if they need to. And they love that, right? And it's not difficult. Really, it's not difficult. Right? It's all about teamwork. It's all about the right structure of the organisation. So people love that experience. Right? I tell people when I said, if you can't reach your banker and you can't reach their manager, well, there's my card. Give me a call. And it rarely happens. Rarely happens that people have to call me. But when they do, they go, wow, you've really showed us something that we're not seeing from the general market at present. So thank you, John.
It's a good question. That whole thing around the technology should be used to enhance relationships, not replace them, is where it sits. So final question, I think, for the panel that we might do, just in terms of where it sits. So Canterbury, Bankstown area is growing, and obviously thanks to Wally and everyone here, it's a thriving metropolis, I'm sure, as it is. And as it grows, but from a small business perspective, how do we stay agile? How do we make sure that we're adaptable? What's your bit of advice? And we'll go along the panel where we'll start with Joe in terms of what do you think in terms of the whole idea of how do the small businesses take advantage of and stay viable and adaptable for this growing area?
I think it's a mindset. I think as a woman who worked in male-dominated fields, I often got told, it's how it's always been done. And that's become a very much a pet peeve for me. I hear that and it's almost like I turn off. We're in a pretty good situation, collaborators, where we're not begging for customers, we don't even need customers. What I need is staff. And we're very specific about who we take on. We want to make sure they have similar values, similar attitudes, they're a little chilled. When we were begging for customers, your first customer, your fifth customer, your sixth customer, you realise that, you've got really demanding people. And I guess we come back to collaboration and partnership. So when you collaborate with us, we are your partner. I'm not your servant. If you are looking for an agency, go get one of them, So we need to be really clear about who we are, what we want to do, because just because you want our services doesn't mean we want to give them to you. We want well-behaved businesses. We want people that pay on time. We want people that are nice to my staff. And that way we can all be happy, because if you're not nice to my staff and they're the hardest thing for me to get and secure, then I can do without you. So we're in a very good position at the moment in doing that. The other thing about partnerships and making sure they're even, mutually beneficial. People think, I want to partner with you, but really I want you to refer me all your business. Or I want you to give me all your best customers. And what will you give me? Thank you. So, so you've got to make sure that you're having these really even relationships. Since I joined, so I've got a business partner, I can't imagine, thank you, Leo, I can't imagine having all that responsibility and financial burden on my shoulders alone. And I went from going, I actually think partnerships are really great. I couldn't do it any other way. There are other business owners that want full control, they want full reward and full burden of whatever goes wrong as well, and accountability. And if that suits you, that's fine. But I would never do it any different way. Leah's very different to me. We manage things different. We bounce off each other, and that is pure collaboration as well. So, and that's going very well for me. The other one is the second, probably most important partnership that I formed was with Wally Mahana. In 2019, we decided to open up our business here in Bankstown. And in June, we met him in July, and we were corporate partners by September. And what we found is through this chamber, we've been able to find like-minded people good customers, good payers, good communicators, good referrers. And my business has been able to grow from that. I've worked with Western Sydney Uni. I've hired 2 people at your university. I'm working with one right now. I get to work on the women's committee, so I get to do passion projects as well. And through all of those activities, I get to find and meet people and, sort of measure whether we're a good fit. Last year, I think I referred out more than $240,000 worth of professional services business, and I didn't ask for a thing in return. But it goes full circle as well, because my top 4 clients are clawing at each other, and they were also referred to me from my friends here at the Chamber. So this relationship and this, my membership with the Chamber and all the activities that I do and volunteer for or participate in, it's all about finding new partnerships, whether it's sales or referrers of staff, or I think I got my bank loan through, as an exception, through someone through the Chamber as well. So when they know you, there are relationships that can really work for you. So for me, that would be the most important thing around the partnership, and I think that works well with Collaborate.
Right, well done, Joe. I think you might have answered for the whole panel, which was sensational. Any final remarks from the panel before we finish up?
Just very quickly, for Canterbury Bankstown, I think one of the challenges that you have, particularly SMEs, is in terms of staffing, that they may use you as a springboard. So the people that may join your organisation, you've got to find a way to keep them, work with them, and develop them. But also recognise that they, this is a term that my students use, they may bounce, which is where they want to go is to the city, to the big corporates. So they may use it as a springboard to get there. So part of the challenge is, and I guess you have the additional challenge at the moment, which is the infrastructure. You've got a train which is not going to be operating for 12 months because they're doing their new metro, which means that it actually complicates things a little bit more. So look at the opportunities that are available with regards to the fact that you're going to have 1 out of 4 people living in this area will have a bachelor's degree. So you've got, it's a bit of a different look to what the area had before. You also have one that's going to be growing quite strongly in terms of population, in terms of dwelling, but it's not going to be universal. There are small areas that are going to develop quite well. So Punchbowl, Birong, there's one other that I've got on my list that are going to grow quite dramatically in terms of population. So part of that is be forward-looking, forward-thinking in terms of who is coming to the area, where are they coming to, what is their demographical mix that they're going to have, because whatever business that you are doing, you are working with people, and you also need to recognize that whether it's your staff or your clients, those people are going to have issues. So it's not just working on them and whatever employment relations, but also the other facets that they're going to bring with them, because they are individuals. So right now with what's happening in the Middle East, I'm spending a lot of time counseling, supporting my colleagues. I'm also doing that for my students. And as part of it is, it's impacting them, even though it is in the far distance. So I guess for Canterbury Bankstown, you know that possibly your employees or your clients may be going through what we call as that extended trauma. So recognizing that, being aware of it, and also having systems to support them.
Lovely. Well, I think that probably draws us to a bit of a close in terms of the panel, and thank you all for the great different contributions, and hopefully that is...
Talk about personal attention and personal relationship. There's none other like Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs who they can provide. Makes you feel important and relevant, not just a number, but a human being. Can I invite Aaron, the CEO, to say a vote of thanks to our guest and to the panel?
Thank you, Wally. Thanks to the panel. It was amazing. To everybody here today, thank you so much for attending Canterbury League Club, the home of the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. When you talk about collaboration, there's a partnership in everyone's, I guess when you come to this club, we have a dedicated business network, just like Wally does, to make sure you leave with a new friend. And so what I can express, aside from my thanks today, is that We look forward to the 2024 season. We hope to see everyone back here at some point, whether that's inside the club or at a Bulldogs home game. I can see lots of corporate partners throughout the room, hopefully lots of future ones too. And to the panellists, that was very insightful, and on behalf of everyone, thank you.
We still have time for networking for the next 20 minutes. Our next most important event is going to be on the 12th of December. It's our community Christmas party at the entertainment park. It's about family gathering, having fun at the entertainment park, but most importantly, we've got a Christmas appeal, a toy drive, and we're asking everyone to bring a small gift placer under the tree, and all the gifts will be donated to kids with families who are suffering from domestic violence. So this is our cause for this year, and we ask you to participate and come along and bring your kids and friends and have fun. For now, enjoy yourself and be safe, and hopefully we'll stay in touch for next time.